Welcome to the Warrior Woodshop. My name is Mr. Rodaway, and we're here to do a quick review, initial opening one-day use of the Grizzly's South Bend model 1099 3 horsepower portable dust collector. This one is currently running 2 joiners, a 5 horsepower big boy table saw, and the G539 37-inch wide belt sander. We ran this today, filled about 25 of the 30 gallons of sawdust, running 3 or 4 tabletops through on that wide belt sander. It's the best. That we used to have a 5,000 or 6,000 CFM system that was outdated. This thing definitely sucks worse, or better I should say, than that 5,000, but it's also brand new. What led me to go with the South Bend version versus the Grizzly? I went in there planning on buying the Grizzly 862 model, 3 horsepower. It's kind of different not seeing green in here in the workshop, as we are primarily a Grizzly tool company. You got to look, or tool shop, excuse me. We got to look at South Bend is the Cadillac or the Lincoln to the Ford and the GM. It is their step up. They have obtained, bought out, I don't know what the legal term is, but Grizzly now owns South Bend, and it's equivalent to their step up model. There are a few bonus features you get on the SB1099 versus the G0862. One of them is the sound deadening walls. The Grizzly 862 in series is open, so there's some sound dampening in here. So you got a little bit of, there's a panel on the inside here you can't see, and then they got some sound dampening right there. The collection barrel for the filter is a plastic drum rather than a bag, and the biggest bonus feature is an auto cleaning motor. They all have, basically when you shut these off, on a Grizzly series you had to use the manual brush cleaner, or what it does is it runs a rubber flap a couple places inside the filter to knock everything down into your bag or your collection drum. This one does it automatically. We'll show you that here, and you can actually see the pleats moving. They all seem to come with the remote control, and no offense, that's one more thing to get lost here in the Warrior Woodshop, but we'll use it maybe when we hit the retirement shop in a few years. For the meantime, you just turn the power switch sideways. I've stressed to the kids that you pull it sideways, and then the button works just like that. It has enough power to lift the collection drum off the ground. Now that we're shutting it off, you're hearing the filter cleaner. One other bonus feature that the South Bend has, the Grizzly doesn't, is a pressure gauge that has a filter hooked up to, or a hose hooked up to the cyclone, and one to the bottom of the barrel that registers pressure and tells you when it gets below a certain point that it's time to clean the filter. You want to make sure the filter stays clean, because they are like $400 filters. They're not HEPA, but they're good filters, so hopefully they will get some life out of it, and we maintain them. One day running, the filter's still white as it was day one. So what we're doing here is a day one review. We've actually ran 3 tabletops through, that were approximately 30 inches wide, 6 foot long, through our G0539 37-inch wide belt sander. It got 90% of the sawdust, and that's with 3 4-inch hoses running and about 50 feet of hose and pipe combined to get that was running at once. It's only about 15 feet to the wide belt sander, but you got to remember we also had the pipes to the joiners running, or still hooked up, and the pipe to our table saw behind us. You need about 400 CFM per machine. We need about 600 or 700 for our wide belt sander. So this 1800 CFM unit is perfect to have all of them going at one time. And we didn't seem to have any trouble. We had kids cutting on the table saw, kids running the wide belt sander, and we really didn't have any trouble. The only thing we did have a problem with is the clean out port on the filter drum actually blew off and let this poof of smoke. Well, we thought it was smoke, it turned out to be dust, thankfully. So we ended up putting a couple of set screws in there. So after the day one, I really liked the machine. No regrets about bumping up to the South Bend. The little bonus features, I think, were worth it, especially since the South Bend was on sale and the Grizzly was not at the time that I was shopping. So it looks a little cleaner with the doors and the covers. I think that's going to help the filter life overall anyways. They both, the Grizzly and the South Bend, typically come with this magnetic switch and again the remote control. The one thing I don't like about this style of dust collector is the import and the barrel are in the same place. I feel like my head is right here in the way to get to the barrel. You know, how often are you dumping it? That's going to be kind of your thing. The downside of this one, because of the U-shaped portability of it, the barrel has to come out this way only. It would really be nice if the barrel could come out this way. And I think in some of the 4-post stands style models, you can do that. But this is a great unit for a small garage shop or a large garage shop, small commercial shop. You need to use it on multiple machines. I mean, it comes with a cap. So if you're not using all the ports, you can close one off there. Or you can run straight pipe because this barrel rolls right on out for dumping. We choose not to use bags here at the Warrior Wood Shop just because of the sheer amount of time that we are using it versus the amount of bags we go through. It's easier to go out and dump it in the compost bin or the recycle bin without having to have a bag to worry about. So there are systems in place that you can put a bag in it and not get it sucked up in there. That's what that little, it's hard to see because it's closed in, but there's a vacuum hose to prevent that. This does concern me a little bit on this style of model. Maybe I could have rotated it 15 degrees, but these stand posts would get in the way after more than that. What they say you should do, from what my reading, I'm not an expert, is whatever diameter the pipe is, you should have 2 to 3 times that in inches before you make a turn. So here, we got an 8-inch pipe, we're coming out maybe 4 to 6 inches before we do a hard turn. What they're really saying is I should have 16 to 24 and then filter. This is great if you're plugging in machines or using it as a single use, especially if you have the 1 to 1.5 or the 2-horse models. You can plug a particular machine in and it's right here at shoulder level. The downside of this is it's great for the table saw, which is straight down, but when you have to go up and over, the intake port is 3 or 4 feet down from the ceiling. Maybe 2 to 3 depending on your garage, but it's got to go up before it goes over. Where the taller 4-post or 4-stand units, it's a little bit higher. So you get what you pay for. The beauty of this, again, is the portability. The emptying handle also serves as a moving handle. Comes with good casters on the base and comes with good casters on the drum. My only concern is the drum's a little bit thin gauge metal and you got to make sure you get it perfectly centered when you put it on there. But this has enough power to lift the drum completely, or we did about half full today with it running. But the remote control has worked from multiple places in the shop. The only thing you have to do is have the emergency stop on and it will work. Again, I don't want to run the filter brush all the time. So depending on how you are with remote controls, it's a great thing to have. I wish they would send more of these or figure out how to get more so I could just put one at each machine and be able to hit the button if that was in my home shop. So maybe I have to do some research on that one. So overall, I would definitely get this machine again. I don't have a chance to compare it to the 860 series, which is the step down without the walls, the sound barriers, the auto cleaner. That auto cleaner is nice. Pressure gauge, I think it's something that we might or might not utilize just because we don't utilize the bag. So that might be a null point there. But the looks, it is a little bit quieter according to the specs. Again, I can't compare it to the 860 series, but let's be realistic. Having a wall around it with sound deadening foam in there should help a little bit. It was reasonable today in the shop using it. We used it for three of our hour-and-a-half blocks of the 4 today because one of them was study hall. Worked out really well. It wasn't too noisy. You could have conversations by it. It was no noisier, in my opinion, than the double bag system that everybody sells, the 1 to 2 horse models, and it has that collection bag at the bottom and the filter bag at the top. The only thing I've talked about my little quirks about where this hose is outputted in the port here, but overall, great machine. My biggest quirk or frustration with this is installing or assembling. The instructions, I think, were written in an overseas language and then converted to English. There were steps that were left out. In fact, this pressure gauge, in one step it showed assembling something, and then a step later or two, this is installed because it's telling me to hook the hose to the back of it. No, and I went through, did I miss something? When am I supposed to install that? So there were steps there. How to install the motor? The photos are very vague. So if you're at Grizzly when you're buying this thing, take a lot of pictures of it so you can reference. How the switch box mounts, it uses the same screw holes as the cover to mount it to the frame. That wasn't very clear in the instructions either. So a lot of the bolts are hex, some are button head. In one of the photos it showed hex head bolts to attach the frame. I think it's one of them, I'm not sure exactly what step, but the instructions said use button heads. So to me, having button heads up top versus hex heads would not have hurt my feelings, or vice versa. Just stick with the same type of bolt, make everything a little bit more symmetrical and efficient. The instructions say to have a 1/2 inch and a 7/16. Turns out to be 12 millimeter and 5 millimeter. It said socket wrench and meant Allen wrench. There's a few things there. Speaking of assembly, we are going to have a separate video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button on how to put this together. You definitely want to have at least 2 people. I thought I could start it by myself the night before and get to the point where the motor had to be installed. That was about 30 minutes to an hour. The frame, the wheels, and the stands is about all I could do by myself. It would have been quicker with a second person, maybe only a half hour, but we brought in 3 or 4 Warrior Woodshop students that were also weightlifting that hour to lift this over, I would say, 100-pound motor and top assembly, because someone has to be up underneath there attaching bolts. So definitely a forklift, hoist, or multiple people power to get this. Be safe, be cautious, you know, safety first, safety always when you're doing that. I thought about trying to lay it on its side, you know, standing upside down. The base has got enough counterweight to offset this that it's very, very balanced, but then trying to lift it and turn it upside down, I think would have done more damage. So there are some things in the instructions and the assembly that I think need to be ironed out, but overall this is a great machine. And again, hit that bell notification so you can see when I get that video posted on how to install or assemble this machine. So would I buy it again? Definitely. Especially not knowing what my next shop's going to be. This one is great. It's got the power to run 3 to 4 machines at once, or you can run a blast gate and run one big machine off of it and have the other 2 in reserve. So thanks for watching. When you're done hitting that subscribe button and cleaning up all the sawdust, because you don't have a dust collector, go out and make some more sawdust.